Dobrodošli vsi skupaj na današnjem dogodku. Par besed v slovenščini najprej, ker gre v bistvu za mednarodni dogodek in v sodelovanju z Global Footprint Networkom in naslavlja mednarodno javnost, bo dogodek potekal v angleškem jeziku, tako da bom zdaj preklopila tudi jaz na angleščino. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to the Earth Overshoot Day 2023. Throughout the course of this event, we will be privileged to hear from esteemed leaders, experts, and climate champions, all of whom are dedicated to driving a positive change. First, we will hear from the President of the Republic of Slovenia, Nataša Pirc-Musar, followed by opening remarks from Bojan Kumer, Slovenia's Minister of Environment, Climate and Energy, and Rozana Marin-Nil, Board Chair from the Global Footprint Network. Now, sharpen your focus, and I hope you catch as many inspiring ideas as possible. Enjoy the event, and Madam President, the floor is yours.
Letošnji svetovni dan ekološkega dolga dosegamo 2. avgusta, kar pomeni, da bi človeštvo za udobno življenje rabilo skoraj 2 zemlji. Slovenija pa je svoj dan ekološkega primanjkljaja dosegla že 18. aprila. Če bi torej naš povprečen življenjski slog živeli vsi zemljani, bi zanj potrebovali 3,4 zemlje. Znanost nas opozarja, da je sedanje desetletje ključnega pomena za to, da bi obrnili trend izpuščanja toplogrednih plinov in s tem dosegli cilj ustavitve segrevanja zemeljskega površja na 1,5 stopinje v primerjavi s predindustrijsko dobo. Vedno bolj ekstremni vremenski pojavi in naravne nesreče okrog nas na tako rekoč dnevni ravni so jasno opozorilo, da časa resnično ni več. Slovenija pa se segreva 2-krat hitreje od svetovnega povprečja. Tudi v Sloveniji potrebujemo bolj ambiciozne politike za prilagajanje podnebnim spremembam in njihovo blaženje. Zato pozivam predvsem k oblikovanju močne in enotne politične volje za večjo odgovornost in učinkovitost naše države pri sprejemanju in izvajanju odločnih korakov zoper podnebno, okoljsko in biodiverzitetno krizo. Ti ukrepi morajo biti celostni in dolgoročni. Država mora pri podnebnem upravljanju in prostorski ureditvi usmerjati in podpirati tudi regionalno in občinsko raven. Pozdravljam proces oblikovanja novega zakona o podnebnih spremembah in prenovi nacionalnega, energetskega in podnebnega načrta. Prav je, da ta proces vključuje širše posvete z različnimi deležniki in tudi civilno družbo. Pričakujem, da bodo ti glasovi slišani in ustrezno upoštevani v končnih inačicah zakona oziroma načrta. Slovenija zaostaja pri rabi obnovljivih virov energije, zato pozdravljam novi zakon o umeščanju naprav za obnovljive vire energije v prostor. Hkrati pozivam vlado, da v nadaljevanju za njegovo izvajanje in prostorsko umeščanje določi osnovne standarde za varstvo ljudi in narave. Država, ki je dolžna skrbeti za našo zdravo življenjsko okolje, naj pri tem k sodelovanju povabi ustrezno stroko, tudi krajinske arhitekte. Boj zoper podnebne spremembe namreč ne sme iti na škodo narave. Narava je v tem najpomembnejšem izzivu sodobnega časa naša ključna zaveznica. Prehranska varnost oziroma suverenost v povezavi z ohranjanjem rodovitnosti prsti bosta vedno pomembnejši. V krogotoku narava, kmetovalec, potrošnik, se zavzemam za podporo kmetovanju po načinu ekološkega ohranitvenega kmetijstva. Oktobra letos bom gostila forum o prehranski suverenosti. Sedaj je naša samooskrba, posebej sadjem in zelenjavo, veliko prenizka. Poraba mesa v Sloveniji pa je previsoka in tedenski dan brez mesa bo tudi zdravju prijazen. Gospodarstvo bo moralo zadovoljevati potrebe vseh znotraj zmogljivosti planeta. Slovenija je zavezana k zelenemu dogovoru znotraj Evropske unije. Podjetja bodo svojo konkurenčnost temeljila tudi na izpolnjevanju teh novih zelenih standardov. V našo družbo vključujmo načela in ukrepe krožnega gospodarstva. Del podnebno-okoljske enačbe je tudi podnebna pravičnost, ki prepoznava najbolj podnebno ranljive regije in prebivalce, tako na globalni kot državni ravni. Vsem moramo omogočiti udejanjanje zelenega prehoda in možnost za prilagajanje na posledice podnebnih sprememb. Ocenjujem, da je javna podpora zelenemu ukrepanju in varstvu okolja visoka. To res presega tradicionalne ideološke delitve in mora biti stvar širšega nacionalnega soglasja. Zdaj se odločamo o tem, v kakšni državi želimo živeti naslednjih 20 ali 30 let. Skupaj in vključujoče moramo sprejeti prave in dovolj odločne ukrepe za to, da bo Slovenija v naslednjih desetletjih sodobna, zelena in tehnološko inovativna država, iz katere mladi ne bodo več odhajali, temveč bodo lahko živeli in delali v varnem, privlačnem in ustvarjalnem domačem okolju. Ne več na račun prekomernega izčrpavanja naravnih virov, temveč v sozvočju z naravo in v zdravem življenjskem okolju. Pravico do zdravega življenjskega okolja nam zagotavlja naša ustava. Posebej ponosna sem, da je Slovenija skupaj s podobno mislečimi državami dosegla priznanje nove človekove pravice do čistega in zdravega življenjskega okolja v Organizaciji Združenih narodov in na lanskem COP27 v Egiptu. Na letošnjem COP28 v Dubaju bomo nadaljevali s prizadevanji za uresničevanje te pravice v naših državah. Ljudje planet uničujemo, a ljudje smo edini, ki ga lahko rešimo. Vsak in vsi skupaj se moramo potruditi po svojih najboljših močeh, to je naša dolžnost.
Spoštovani gostje, obeležitev dneva svetovnega ekološkega dolga je jasen opomin, da zaskrbljujoče hitro izčrpavamo naravne vire. Gre za simbolično mejo, ki jo prestopimo veliko prezgodaj in ki pomeni netrajnostno pot našega razvoja. Vendar naj pojasnim, dan svetovnega ekološkega dolga ni razlog za obup, temveč je poziv k ukrepanju. Struktura ekološkega odtisa Slovenije kaže, da je od tega največ, približno 60% ogljičnega odtisa. K temu največ prispevajo izpusti v prometu, zlasti osebni prevoz in poraba energentov v bivališčih, velik pa je tudi ogljični odtis storitev. Ker se tega zavedamo, smo v začetku leta prvič ustanovili ministrstvo pristojno za podnebje, s čimer dajemo podnebnemu ukrepanju potrebno težo. Hkrati pa smo v pristojnost ministrstva prenesli še energetiko in prometno načrtovanje, sektorja z največjimi izzivi razogljičenja in sektorja, ki lahko veliko prispevata k zmanjševanju ekološkega odtisa države. Ukrepati smo pričeli takoj. V začetku mandata smo sprejeli zakon o celostnem prometnem načrtovanju z namenom zmanjševanja negativnih vplivov prometa na okolje. Nato smo sprejeli zakon o spodbujanju alternativnih goriv v prometu. Pred 2 tednoma pa še zakon, s katerim želimo že v naslednjih nekaj letih povečevati delež obnovljivih virov energije, predvsem vetra in sonca. Za ukrepanjem v teh 2 sektorjih želimo preprečiti, da bi bilo to desetletje izgubljeno. Moramo pa do leta 2030 storiti še veliko. Med drugim pripravljamo podnebni zakon, ki bo zastavil okvirje za nadaljnje zmanjševanje toplogrednih plinov in krepitev odpornosti na podnebne spremembe. Posodabljamo tudi nacionalni energetsko-podnebni načrt v smeri ambicioznejših ciljev do leta 2030. S tem izpolnjujemo našo zavezanost Evropskemu zelenemu dogovoru in pospešenemu prehodu v krožno gospodarstvo. Cilj zmanjševanja ekološkega odtisa je sicer vključen v strategijo razvoja Slovenije do leta 2030 in sicer želimo doseči 20% zmanjšanje v primerjavi z letom 2013. Napredek spremljamo na letni ravni v sklopu nacionalnih razvojnih poročil. Ekološki odtis je vključen tudi v program varstva okolja Republike Slovenije do leta 2030. Rezultati analize pa so predstavljeni v nacionalnem poročilu o stanju okolja. Slovenija je poleg tega uspela ekološki odtis uvrstiti kot priporočeni kazalnik v metodologijo za načrtovanje regionalnega razvoja. Da bi še dodatno pokazali pripravljenost in sposobnost Slovenije za ukrepanje nameravamo izvesti še več ukrepov. Letos bomo v sodelovanju z Global Footprint Networkom podprli slovenske regije pri uporabi kazalnika. Načrtujemo uporabo metodologije Global Footprint Networka za izračun ogljičnega odtisa hrane ter vzpostavljamo tako imenovani One Hour Club, ki bo namenjen malim in srednje velikim podjetjem, ki bo predstavljen v nadaljevanju tega srečanja. Kot sem omenil na začetku, dan svetovnega ekološkega dolga ni razlog za obup, temveč je poziv k ukrepanju. Če danes pogumno ukrepamo, lahko na novo opredelimo svoj odnos do narave in zagotovimo harmonično sobivanje med človeštvom in zemljo. Hvala za vašo pozornost.
As chair of Global Footprint Network, I'm grateful you're part of the launch of this year's Earth Overshoot Day. It marks the point in the year when our resource consumption exceeds what our planet can replenish this year. Earth Overshoot Day is not simply a statistic. It gives us our context. It reminds us that our future will be shaped by more climate change and resource constraints. Recognizing this fact helps us all, whether we're a household, a city, a company, or a country, to get more prepared and to become far more careful with managing our resource situation. Because everything we do depends on nature. Earth Overshoot Day is a call for a brighter future. We have choices, and we recognize that ending overshoot is in our best interest. There's no benefit in waiting to take action. In fact, there are countless responses to hashtag move the date of Earth Overshoot Day. Thank you, Slovenia, for your leadership. And thank you to our partners for engaging all our communities and inviting them to shift our trends. We are proud to work with you all. Human ingenuity, if applied to this problem, can do wonders. With you, I'm counting on it.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Alessandro Galli, and I'm the director of the Mediterranean MENA program at Global Footprint Network. I would like first to thank the government of the Republic of Slovenia for hosting us, and also the Minister of Environment, Climate and Energy. And I'm going to give you like a short presentation just to provide a context about overshoot, mainly touching on what it is about, why we are in this situation, and what we can do about this. So, as we have heard in the previous intervention, tomorrow is Earth Overshoot Day. What it means is that today is the last day of the year in which we are living out of the ecological budget of the planet. As of tomorrow, we are starting to use the resources of next year. What this means, actually, and here you see like a schema, is that while the size of our economy back in the 50s and in the 60s was way smaller than the size of our natural capital, in just about 5 decades, we have completely changed the situation, and the size of our economy now is much bigger than the biocapacity of our planet, the capacity of the planet to, let's say, sustain our activities. Now, what you see in this schema is not just a qualitative statement, and is actually something that we can measure. Next. So, what you see on the left is actually our Global Footprint Network way of measuring those two, the circles and the boxes that we have seen before. The circle, the capacity of the biosphere, is the green line that you see on the left graph, while the box, the demand, the size of the economy, is our ecological footprint. Over the last 5 decades, we as humans have managed to increase the productivity of our planet. We have managed to produce more resources out of the planet, but we have managed to do so at the expense of an even additional demand on the planet resources. So our ecological footprint, the red line, has increased much faster. And what you see is that since the 70s, we have started to accumulate a debt with our planet. And right now, we ask the equivalent of 1.7 planet worth of resources. Now, we all know that we don't have this 0.7 planet. So what does it mean exactly is that our planet needs about 20 months to regenerate what we use in 12 months. We can go to the next one. So we are able to say so thanks to the ecological footprint methodology. The ecological footprint methodology, we think at it as a sort of balance sheet for the planet, in which we are able to measure what is the competing demand by humans for the capacity of the planet to sustain life, to produce new resources and to sequester the waste that we emit. We can go to the next slide. Now, something very important to point out is that when we look our ecological footprint results together with the UN Human Development Index data, we see actually a sad reality. On the left side here, you see the goal of the UN SDGs. So to have everyone thrives within the limits of the planet. But when we look at the footprint trends next to the Human Development Index trends, unfortunately, we see that those who thrive, they are doing that beyond the limits of the planet. And those who stay within the limits of the planet have poor life. So overall, we are failing the overall goal of living well within the limits of the planet. We can go to the next slide. This is just showing the balance in between the human demand and the natural supply, how it has changed globally from 1961 to 2022. And you see that in 2022, most of the countries on the planet are running an ecological deficit. Now, if we go to the next slide, we see more clearly the situation of Slovenia. This we have seen before. If everyone on the planet lived like a Slovenian resident, Earth Overshoot Day will not be tomorrow, but would have been already the 18th of April. But you also see a lot of countries that are next to Slovenia. And these countries are all European countries. Italy, if everyone lived like an Italian, it will be May 15. So what I want to say with this is that the recipe to reduce overshoot may differ country by country, but the root causes of why we are in this overshoot situation is the same across most of the countries. So what it is exactly this root cause? If we go to the next slide, I really much like this study that was published a few years ago, The Great Acceleration by Will Steffen, Johan Rockstrom, and other colleagues. What you see here is a lot of socioeconomic trends and Earth system trends, increase in GDP, increase in energy use, increase in population, but at the same time also deforestation, carbon dioxide emissions, and so on. What you see is that in all these graphs, at one point, you see an exponential growth. This point is around 1950s. And here I would like to, let's say, refer to the words of Barry Commoner, who used to say, something went wrong at the end of World War II. And actually, this something that went wrong, I want to echo what the minister was saying, was exactly a change in the relationship between humans and nature. From that moment in time, we changed completely our approach to nature, and we started to see nature as a resource to be exploited and not like something that we live together. Next slide. So clearly, when we see all these trends, I think the realization that we must come up with, or at least that we come up with, is that we live on a polycrisis. Right now we are experiencing a lot of different crises at the same time, which are very hard for us to handle. But let's say exiting overshoot, realizing this polycrisis, it means also that the solution will not come with a silver bullet. We will not have a single solution that fixes the problem, but we will have to go through a series of changes that will altogether help us move out of overshoot. This is a website that we have created, Power of Possibility, in which you can see all different activities from putting like a carbon tax to scaling up the ambition of the EU Green Deal to the entire world, reduce food waste, and so on. All of these activities, they contribute to postpone the overshoot day, but no one alone solved the problem. So we need a lot of actions, but at the same time, next slide, we also need what I would say a societal transition. We need really to rethink what is the ultimate goal of our societies. I know in science we should never put trends together and assume that there is a connection or a link, a consequence between the two. But I found these two graphs next to each other quite shocking, because on the left you see the usual, we have seen before, footprint and biocapacity trends. On the right side, you see the comparison between the GDP at the world level and the genuine progress indicator. The genuine progress indicator is, let's say, a better measure of well-being, okay? And what we see is that right around the 70s, which is when humanity's footprint started to exceed the biocapacity of the planet, we also started to diverge these two trends. So economic growth was no longer economic, was uneconomic, because the cost of economic growth were more than the benefits. So since the 70s, our well-being has been stagnating. So this really means that we need to not only take some, let's say, easy fix, but we also need to start rethinking our approach to society and to what is the ultimate goal of society. Next slide. This is, I don't know how many of you have heard of this, because unfortunately it was not too much in the news, but there was a big conference in May organized at the request of 10-15 members of the European Parliament, the Beyond Growth Conference, and this is the letter that was sent, the introductory statement from President Ursula von der Leyen. I don't know if you click next, maybe there is a yellow highlights that comes in. No, so if you can just go back 1 second. If you read the last paragraph, there is something that says a growth-centered model, a growth model centered on fossil fuel is simply obsolete. So really, there is a call for shifting the goal of our society towards well-being and not towards growth. Final slide, and I come to the conclusion. I would like to refer back to what the minister also mentioned. Slovenia indeed is a country who has recognized these problems and is actually set as an ambition in its development strategy and also in the National Environmental Protection Program to reduce the ecological footprint of the country by 20% by 2030. We work with the government over the past few years and come up with a study with a sort of initial recommendations on how, the initial steps that could be made to reverse the situation. They go through a more energy efficient urban planning, transitioning to a net zero, to a zero carbon energy system, prioritize the management of forest, which is really like the biocapacity, the bulk of the biocapacity of the country, and also prioritize regenerative agriculture. And all of these strategies, they also touch very much and are in line with EU policies. So with this, I would like to conclude this short introduction. And I think we want to shift now from introducing the problem to discussing how we can address the problem. So it's my pleasure to welcome on stage the Dr. Janez Potočnik, who is the co-chair of the International Resource Panel. I hope I pronounce it like good enough. And at the same time, he will be joined on stage by Mr. Uroš Bajkl, which is the State Secretary for Environment and Climate. So they will explore more how we can collectively transition from overshooting the planet to achieving an harmonious balance with nature. Okay, thank you so much, and that's it from my side.
Okay, so indeed it's a pleasure and honor to be sitting here with Mr. Dr. Janez Potočnik, the co-chair of the International Resource Panel. who's been dealing with resource efficiency, circular economy, sustainability in one way or another in so many different positions and so many different roles. So I would like to start off our debate by asking you, what are your feelings today on the eve of this Earth Overshoot Day? What thoughts do you have? What messages could you convey to us?
Hvala Uroš in najprej lep dober dan vsem skupaj. Good day to everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here, in particular to sit together with Uroš because we have a long history together. And what is the feeling when we talk about Earth Overshoot Day? Actually, I'm somehow waiting for next storm overshoot because it's coming today. If somebody thinks that those things are not connected, it's a bit living on another planet. So it's pretty frightening as what we are seeing today happening around us. And it's a bit frightening also to listen that the response is more in preparedness and mitigation than actually in how we would prevent it. So I think it's really essential that we start discussing those things. But when we discuss the Earth Overshoot Day or planetary boundaries concept or safe operating space, by the way, they are all telling us the same story. They are telling us the story that the biocapacity of the planet is lower than actually what we are together using, consuming. And if one would go to the core reasons of those things, it's not so difficult. So on one hand, you have the population growth, which we have heard about it. I don't know if you are aware when the limits to growth from Club of Rome were released, that was 1972, the planet population was 3.8. We have surpassed now 8 billion. So it's more than double in last 50 years. But of course, it's not only the growth of population, more important, it's the economic growth and the growth of well-being which we are enjoying, which again, both would not be the problem if we would not do all that in a wasteful and unfair economic model. And if the signals which we as producers and consumers are receiving would not simply lead us in the wrong direction, and they are leading us in the wrong direction. We can discuss that if you want more in detail. I was really enjoying the presentation from Alessandro, and by the way, all the addresses which we have heard, with one exception. Everybody is talking human and relation between human and nature. Come on, are we not part of nature or what? So it's actually the relation between humans and the rest of nature. And one of the major mistakes of the contemporary economics, and I'm economist and I can confess that this is one of the core problems, even in theory, is that we are considering humans as external to nature and not part of nature. And that basically the theory which we are developing, it's based on that kind of logic. It's as simple as that. Destroying nature is destroying ourselves. And we need to understand that this is one of the core problems which we are facing. But this was a bit longer reply to your question.
Still very good reply. In the work of the International Resource Panel, you touch upon pressures that are the root causes of what we are experiencing now as well. You mentioned the effects of climate change. This we very lividly have experienced in Slovenia in the past weeks through natural disasters. But on the other hand, we're experiencing all sorts of pressures due to unsustainable resource use and unsustainable resource and inefficient resource management. What does your panel tell us on where we are, where we stand now, and where we should be heading in the future?
Yeah. Maybe Uroš, if you would allow me, before starting to tell what is the story of the panel, I think one of the problems, again, is that we don't look to the problems enough connected and holistically. Whenever we talk about how we exploit natural resources, just remember our history. So access to land, access to water, access to precious raw materials, minerals, and so on, were in the human history always the basis for our well-being. That's why all the colonialization, if you want, of nature in the past happened. So colonialization of natural resources was actually before colonization of people. Colonization of people was somehow following. So we were always aspiring to get to new natural resources so that we were building our well-being on the basis of that. And you see a lot of the wealth in Europe today which is based on that. But it's not only that. That access and everything that was also the cause for a lot of conflicts, a lot of wars. And today, when we are talking about those issues, we simply don't understand that going into the direction of sustainability, it's actually a much broader story than environmental story. It's geopolitical story. It's the story of peace and war in the future. And if we will simply not understand it in that way, we will miss the point. Because that's what is at the center of this story. So what is International Resource Panel telling us? Actually, when we are saying natural resources, we think of materials, and materials, it's everything extracted from the earth, plus water and land. And one of the things which we are seeing, so we are following the trends in the last 50 years, the use of materials has more than tripled. Majority of that is connected to economic growth, but population growth is also an important factor. And when we are looking to impact on the triple planetary crisis, we are basically coming to the conclusion that 90% of biodiversity loss and water stress are connected to the resource extraction and processing. That half of climate change is connected to that, and 1/3 of pollution is connected to that, which is leading us then to the theoretical concept that it is absolutely necessary that in the future we decouple economic growth and well-being growth from the resource use and from the environmental impacts. Even in theory, even in science, some are saying that in history we have never done that. So according to that, it's actually difficult to prove and difficult to believe that this will happen. My answer to them, it's pretty simple. We have never tried, which is true, by the way. So we are just now, when we are seeing the problems, starting to develop that kind of thinking. So I think when you talk about circular economy, it's actually a kind of instrument. So theoretical concept is decoupling, while policy or political context, it's actually circular economy. And these things are pretty much connected. And for us in the International Resource Panel, core question, it's always how to meet human needs by using less energy and by using less natural resources. That's the core question. And one can provide human needs in much different way than we are providing them today. But fundamentally, we need to shift the logic and thinking, because it's not providing you a car, but providing you a mobility. It's not providing actually the house, but space to live. So the needs are different than actually the sectors, how governments are organized, or how our life in silo is organized. Why that is so important? Because it's allowing you to provide much more efficient answers. Because if you search for an answer only in a sector, only in a specific area, you have limited possibility, including energy and including climate. That's why we so much believe that it's really important to look to both, not only cleaning the supply side, which is today the prevailing concept, but also asking ourselves the question, how can we provide human need more efficiently? So looking to the demand side, which you have also in your analysis, which were shown and explained by the minister, which you are basically doing, but sometimes we do not understand that this is that part of the story, that the consumption part, and actually consumption, it's not bad term, don't misunderstand me. Wastefulness, it's a bad term, because we all need consumption. But the way how it's organized, it's terrible. So the last sentence which I would like to say in this context is, we are currently in the last phase of providing Global Resource Outlook 2024. It will be released at United Nations Environment Assembly, UNEA. I think it's beginning of March next year. And the core shifts which we will do are exactly that. We will shift from looking to the maximizing GDP to maximizing well-being. We will not look anymore to sectors, but to human needs and provisioning systems, and do all the analysis, also the climate impact analysis, through that optic. And we will definitely look more not only to the supply side, which is today prevailing, but integrating also the demand side, the consumption side. Why? Because if we, as high-income countries, will not look into the mirror and ask ourselves who is actually overshooting planetary boundaries, who is in this overshoot day overshooting it earlier than others, and ask ourselves then the question, what can we do that we would move up to that ladder, then we are simply not honest. And it is essential, since you need a global movement, if you want to change the climate question and address it, it's essential to keep Global South on board. And you will not keep Global South on board by not looking into the mirror and asking yourself also the questions why we are overshooting and what we will do ourselves that this will become better than it is.
No, very, very good point. I mean, there is one aspect that you mentioned here, and that was in the minister's intervention as well at the beginning, and that is that the last State of the Environment report in Slovenia that is published every 5 years, it has a chapter on sustainable consumption. And in that, there is also a notion of meta-analysis done that 60% of the global, in this case now, greenhouse gas emissions are connected to choice patterns or consumer behavior of households. That many other environmental pressures are also linked to this. We usually tend to attribute environmental pressures to different sectors. So in the sense of production, in the sense of where a good is produced, the way it's transported, where it's stored, and then when it's brought into the household and used, and then maybe disposed of, and with and additional environmental pressures coming out there. There is a role that individuals can make with their consumer choices on influencing these environmental pressures. I would not like to put the responsibility on consumers. It's not the responsibility of consumers to change patterns. However, an increased awareness from their side can also help to make more sustainable all of the processes that have led towards this consumption. What is your opinion? What are the most important steps that we can take to reverse these trends of environmental degradation? We haven't reversed them yet. What is the biggest obstacle to do this, and what are the most priority steps that we should take in order to
Yeah, if I would start maybe by a bit expanding your your thoughts on consumption, which basically I agree very much. So by definition, consumption is very much linked to the consumer, but it's not so simple, unfortunately. So consumer needs to be informed, and the sentence, I can't do nothing, it's simply the wrong sentence. We all have to do something, and creating a critical mass, it's moving the mountains. And that's what the consumers can do. And they can also very much press on governments and also on the companies that the things would change. Being informed and also being aware that the situation should be improved. But consumption, and it's a kind of strange mix of the impacts of the consumers, which I mentioned, of government policy. So what are the signals which we are sending to consumers? Currently, the signals are a bit strange to expect that consumers will behave responsibly. So if you want to buy more environmentally friendly, healthier food, you have to pay more. If you want to build, the place to live in a more environmentally friendly way, you normally, if you build it in a way that you use less space, it's already the most important thing. But at the end of the day, normally, if you behave environmentally, also if you buy, for example, a new car, you have to pay more. So the signals are simply not telling us the right story. And at the end, it's also the companies. So I was just recently going through the Brussels airport, since I'm pretty frequent there, and it was written something like that: we are preparing for you new space for your consumption, or something like that, for your enjoyment. So yeah, if we are constantly bombarded on a daily basis, buy more, buy different, buy this, and by the way, we are manipulated, if we are honest, in many cases, because somehow the advertisements are telling us also the things which are simply not true. Because if all the beauty creams would be so effective, all of us would look differently, believe me. So it's a bit of this fundamental honesty which needs to be brought, and where also the governments needs to play the role. So my answer to your question would be, we simply need to look to economics, because the model which we have developed, as I said, it's wasteful and it's unfair. And as long as it is, and this is difficult to change, by the way, because people have, these are lock-ins, a lot of people have benefits from that. Even there is lots of times connection between the governments and the business sector. And it's really important that somehow this public interest, which is the objective of the public sector, that this is following, that this is the North Star which is leading our behavior and also our policy making. A lot of good is around, a lot is happening. It's simply not yet there as it should be. Because if I give you just one example, when we have had a bad experience with COVID, we have reacted quite effectively and immediately. So if you would just ask your question, would the work from home be possible without COVID? No. Today I read 70% of German companies are accepting work from home. So, and this is, by the way, the best way to tackle mobility, because that's where you start, how to limit the things. And if you would ask yourself, as a human need, how much of the clothes I was wearing during the COVID comparing to before the COVID? And I know what is the answer, but then ask yourself the second part of the questions: were you happier or less happier? At least I was happier, because I was wearing the things which I enjoy and which makes me more comfortable. So these are actually human needs, and a lot of other human needs are imposed, and they are actually dictated from the outside. But we can simply, so if you, my point was, if you think, or if you see one thing as serious as COVID was, we are able to act very much. If we would see climate change in the same way, we would act the same way. But we are not seeing it seriously yet. And that's our problem. Our problem is that we think that those things which are happening this month around us will disappear. No, they will become more frequent, they will become our reality, and this, for all those who care for costs and economy, this will be terribly costly. Not only for economy, but also for us as for our lives. So I think it's essential, my essential point there would be, we need to start take those things seriously. And when we will start to take them seriously, I'm absolutely convinced we will move quicker and better than we are moving today.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. I think to take things seriously is the only way that we can approach sustainability. One challenge that I see in this, one challenge why we're not taking things seriously enough is that not everyone is as aware of the challenges of sustainability. And I remember when you were still commissioner for climate, for environment in the European Commission. You were then a policymaker, and you were trying to promote environment and later and circular economy as a mainstream throughout the policy areas. I remember the 7th Environmental Action Program was the first program that challenged the traditional thinking of sustainable development as a search of a balance or as a choice between environment, social or economic sustainability, whereby on certain manners we don't have a choice. We cannot have more in economy on the basis of less environment. There is a limit to how much economy this environment allows us, and the highlight, the notion of the program that living well within the boundaries of the planet was then taken on also in further environmental programs, and it created a sort of a framework in which it attempted to create a framework in which we would all operate. So my question to you is, looking now at the European Union or looking at policymakers also outside, has this message of sustainability, is it more widespreadly realized now than it was 15 years ago? Is it mainstreamed enough? One experience I also have from the European Union, we have environmental ministers meet in the Environmental Council, and I attended one in the spring after a couple of years discussing again the annual growth survey and the European semester economic programs, and basically the debates were still very much the same, that environmental ministers were saying that we need to be more that we need to be more mainstream, that it's the problem is that sustainability is handled only by us, but not by the colleagues responsible for industry, not by the colleagues responsible for agriculture, not by the colleagues responsible. And this also sometimes is something that you feel as a policymaker in the field of environment, that you are taking care of the negative results, but you are not responsible for the root cause. But is the situation now? Is it better than it was 15 years ago? Is it like it should be?
The answer to your two questions, on the first, it's more accepted, yes. Is it enough mainstreamed? No. So the things are definitely moving in the right direction, and I think that the European Green Deal was a kind of breakthrough document. It is. I could not imagine European Green Deal during my term, to be frank. So the situation moved ahead, and I think this is very much positive. And as you are saying, if you are environment minister, you are responsible for all the problems, but the solutions are more or less in the hands of your colleagues. So you need to be a good friend with many, and you need to step into their shoes many times and try to persuade them that it's actually also their story. and that your interests very much coincide, but maybe you don't see it, maybe they don't see it that way. But just to share with you the top 10 risks which were identified by World Economic Forum this year. And this was done on the basis of asking the core business people, and there are actually 2 years perspective and 10 years perspective. Now listen to their responses in 10 years perspective. First, failure to mitigate climate change. Second, failure of climate change adaptation. Third, natural disasters and extreme weather events. Fourth, biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse. 5, large-scale involuntary migration, which is, by the way, also the consequence of those things. And 6, natural resource crisis. This is business sector, come on. So anybody who will tell me that they do not understand, it's simply pretending, yeah, there are short-term interests which goes against longer-term behavior, and there it's a pretty much unfortunate situation that we are always hearing from the business sector. The loud ones are those who are losing, while those who are gaining are not really loud because they are gaining and they are pretty much comfortable with the situation. So it is in economic interest that this environmental or sustainability transition would happen, full stop. It is in economic interest. Because because many today are talking about limits to growth and so on, but not taking environmental transition or sustainability transition into consideration, it's actually the clearest way to limit economic development in the future. So it's, you just have to see the things right. But let me conclude with, I was just last week seeing, or a week before seeing, everybody who is from this region will remember Alan Ford, and we were all following it during our days. And there was a quote which is nicely explaining where our economy today is and where actually also the capitalistic system which is around is. So the quote goes something like that: it is not difficult to drive without the brakes, it's difficult to stop. So that's our problem. We are driving without brakes, and it will be difficult to stop. So we need to start thinking how we put a bit of the brakes and align this kind of. So you need to understand that economy as a science and also in practice was not established that humans would serve economy, but that economy would serve humans. And we need to set the order right. And that's where the things start, and that's where the things end. And I think it's really important that we switch from this wasteful economic model, which is sometimes still subsidized and supported, to a kind of more regenerative and more innovative ways of solution seeking, that we start thinking from concepts which are based on we need car to concepts, we need mobility. You don't need chair, you need to sit. You don't need, I don't know, pesticides, you need healthy plants. You don't need refrigerator, you need cool and fresh food. So, and one can continue. So this is basically looking through the human to the economy, and then ask yourself, what are the solutions? How can I provide that in most resource and energy efficient way? And if you would think that way, then also energy transition, which in particular your sector needs to deal with, will be much easier, because you will not be forced to think about biofuel solutions or solutions which are how to hide carbon dioxide, and because the problems will be easier to manage. And I think these are essential things, and this will not have effect only on the faster climate solutions, but also on all over story of biodiversity pollution. And don't misunderstand, environmental and social transition will go hand in hand, or there will be no environmental transition. Because only things which are socially acceptable are acceptable. And it's essential that we start tackling also not only how we produce the wealth, but also look to the question of how it is distributed. And these are essential things which are in front of us, not easy, but where there is a will, there is a way. So.
Yes, thank you very much. Going back to the break, it's not a question of whether we will stop or not. We will stop. So it's better that we find the break and stop ourselves when we want to and how we want to. I thank you very much for this discussion. And well, we're going on further on with the program. Before moving on to the next session, interactive session, which will explore the power of possibility to move the date, we will hear a special message from Ms. Razan Al-Mubarak, UN Climate Change High-Level Champion and President of the International Union for Conservation of Nature. So please take.
Yeah, thank you, Uroš. You are doing great work here in Slovenia. Just continue like that, and we'll do something good. Thank you.
Gladly. Thank you.
Without question, restoring and preserving our planet's ecosystem on which we all depend is one of our greatest tasks. Many of the environmental challenges we face arise from our excessive demands on the planet, far exceeding its capacity to replenish itself. To address this, we must establish robust metrics that serve as guides and help us monitor our progress. The concept is simple. Measure what you treasure. Like with managing money, nature needs robust accounting too. It is in our interest not to overspend. The Global Footprint Network and its partners have worked diligently over the years to develop such accounting for nature. Their assessments provide valuable insights, including the estimated date when humanity will consume as much from the Earth as it can regenerate within a year. According to the latest calculations by Global Footprint Network, Earth Overshoot Day for this year falls on August 2nd. With this metric in hand, any country, region, city, or company can assess its current standing and determine how it can contribute to postponing this date. This year's Earth Overshoot Day is slightly later than the previous year. It indicates progress in the right direction. We just need more of that. I firmly believe that we can strive for even greater achievements in the years ahead, ensuring a more secure and a more sustainable future. The crucial point is this. As we move towards moving the date, we have the opportunity to fortify our cities and countries. The real question lies in whether we possess the courage to seize these opportunities. Together, we have the power to move the date. Thank you for your unwavering commitment and contribution.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the future of severe consequences of climate change is approaching more rapidly than most companies, societies, or cities in general can adapt. And this might be economically self-destructive for those who will not be able to prepare themselves. Therefore, welcome also to our panel with the title Possibility to Move the Date. This is important. So this is concluding conversation today on today's ceremony. So as mentioned by different speakers, possibility is also important to have a possibility. Possibility is also opportunity, but at the same time is also responsibility. So today we will talk about tremendous potential offered by numerous existing solutions, ideas, good practices. that can exemplify the power of possibility to move the date of the Earth Overshoot Day. Now, by encouraging people and businesses to adopt sustainable lifestyles, supporting policies that are aligned with the European Green Deal, which was also mentioned by Dr. Potočnik, which is really important, we can move the date. Now, our discussions are also aligned to adopt the sustainable lifestyle supporting policies that are aligned with the European Green Deal, as I mentioned, but also the Environmental Action Plan, the 8th report program, which envisions the future whereby 2050 people live within planetary boundaries, they live in the climate-neutral environment, inequalities are significantly decreased, and also we are restoring and preserving nature. So I'm delighted to introduce our panelists today. So Dr. Vlasta Hemir, the mayor of the municipality Selnica ob Dravi, but you are also the director of the Climate and Energy Agency for the Podravje region.
Yes, you're right.
So on my left and on my right, we have a representative from the business sector, so Lucia Aleksic from Aquafil.
Hello.
And I'm Tomasz Gorenc from the Institute for Health and Environment. I'm also sustainability lead at Impact Hub Ljubljana. So as you can see, we have a representative from the business sector, we have a representative from the government on the local level, and the NGO representative. So we cover it all. But we will start with the municipality. So you have a lot of insights how to run the municipality, and you have also knowledge from the climate and energy topics. So how do you see municipality, your municipality that you're running, contributing to move the date on the local level?
Yes, I think the municipalities as local government have a great power to move the things. It's not only the money sometimes that we think that are limits, but we know that in Slovenia sometimes we have a saying, if the money is a problem, then usually there is no problem. So our municipality said that we would like to be the healthiest municipality in Slovenia, but the healthiest mean not only people to be healthy, but they have to live in healthy environment. So all our action plans are set in a way that, yes, we would like to have a natural-based solution and to, at the same time, make the awareness of the people living in our municipality that going towards the climate neutrality and sustainable living is the only way that we can really live and enjoy our life and also in our nice and green environment. So our municipality is a small one, only 4,600, and we are a green municipality. But still, we consume a lot of different resources, energy, and others, and our CO2 footprint is quite high. So this is when we said, yes, we have an idea we need new kindergarten because we are happy that we have more and more kids, and we like the kids to live in nice kindergarten, but at the same, we care about their future. So this is why we decided really to build new sustainable, zero emission, environmental friendly, in the frame of circular economy kindergarten. And this kindergarten is already on the way, and it will be, the children will move in this new wooden sustainable build with Slovenian wood, with innovative Slovenian companies' ideas, bring all these regional actors together. And I think that the results are already seen, but the most of them will be seen next spring. And I think this is the idea, and this is the showcase and showing the way how we really at the local level, when the local government together with the local people support such ideas, understand and then support such as ideas.
Interesting. I mean, very innovative and progressive, and I think it's really a good example how to do things locally. On the local level. So, okay, let's go to business side now. Businesses were, business sector was also addressed during this event, and I believe you have a lot of experiences in that area. So, what is your company, this power of possibility to move the date? So, what kind of solutions do you offer to address sustainability?
Yes, so maybe I need to put the things into the right context, so I start from the beginning. So I'm coming from Aquafil. We are a business, yes. And Aquafil is a polyamide 6 yarn producer and granulate producer. Our products are then later on used in the apparel industry for the swimwear, for the underwear, sportswear, for the carpets, in automotive industry, and also, let's say, for some machine parts for the gear and so on. Traditionally, our raw material is coming from the fossil resources. But today, I dare to say, still humbly, that we are a small pioneer in the circular economy because we have launched something like more than 10 years ago, our flagship product, which is called EcoNil product. So what that is, it's a product which is made out of 100% recycled nylon 6 waste. The nylon waste is practically, let's say, collected from all over the world, from different kind of industries, like fish farming industry, carpet industry, other types of, let's say, different kind of plastic parts from the plastic industry production, let's say. This type of waste is then recycled. It's not just any type of the recycling. In reality, it's a chemical recycling using the depolymerization process. It's a little bit technical, but still, it's very important to distinguish this, just because the output of this process is then the recycled material, which has the same properties as if it was produced from the virgin material, which means we have later on endless possibilities how to use this material. So it's some sort of upcycling process. By this, we are, let's say, saving non-renewable resources and also creating environmental benefits such as reduced greenhouse gases and so on, and many other different benefits are still. But I have to say that also our products are already widely recognized and appreciated by the final consumers, by the brands, and let's say the biggest, let's say, apparel brands and carpet industry, automotive, and so on. So this is, let's say, our contribution to the circular economy, in short.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned that your brand, I mean, your products are recognized, right? But this was, I assume, not the case in the beginning, right? So this is a process, you know, because we live in society in general. So education, I think, is also important. Maybe I can contribute something from our side where we are working. For example, in Institute for Health and Environment and also in PHAP, we see really huge potential and still a bit a gray zone of education. I mean, this practical education, how to do things. That's why, for example, one example is also why with GFN developed a Slovenian version of ecological footprint calculator. So how to promote, how to educate sustainability in practice by sector, and now this tool is also used in schools. I think this is important from the educational perspective, right? And on the previous panel, I really liked it, by the way, but it was said, you know, consumers were mentioned, right, as individuals. This is important. Usually, we are pushing too much pressure on individuals. I mean, consumers cannot do everything. So this, yes, of course, they can do a lot, but this bottom-up approach is indeed important, but with also top-down approach. So bottom-up, top-down, let's meet halfway, but better soon as possible before it's too late. So that's why we need all. So as your suppliers, your buyers as well, right? So we need to educate at the same time. And maybe my experience that I'm actually from spring on in Impact Hub Ljubljana, we started a CIRCO program, which is in a way, it's internationally tested program to help businesses to adopt the business model to be circular, you know. And now I saw also the problems or the lack of capacities on the other side, you know, to understand them. So cooperation, I think, is really important. Maybe just to add my 2 cents. So, but beside of education, I also see really important thing, motivation. So now let's go back to municipality, because I assume you are you are doing a lot of things to motivate people, I assume. So how is with that? How your actually municipality found, your cabinet found the motivation to do things? Because you can do it business as usual. We heard it's sometimes easier.
Yeah, you're right. It is easier, but I think explaining, talking to people, because we all know that it was a little bit more expensive to build a very sustainable way, even in really circular way with regional companies, but still it's true, it's around 10% more expensive than it was classical built kindergarten. So many people ask, because we are a municipality with not a lot of budget, we still have to do very carefully with the money. So many people ask, yes, you have put so much more money in this sustainable kindergarten, but it's not other than any other we look around. So I took, and the whole our administration took this opportunity to show to people, we are showing this to the media, we are putting this in our newspaper, local newspaper. You know, what are these added value of such kindergarten? It's not everything in the money. So it will be much nicer indoor climate for children, for the people that work there. So they will have a much more healthier, without organic additives and everything. So if we look for a future for 2050, so this will be such of a great benefit. And I think after 1, 2, 3 years of explaining, people start to understand and see this really, this is nice example. And when I talk maybe to this regional media or local media, they are getting quite proud of it, that we are, you know, somehow showcased to others. And now they are trying to be proud of it. And I think this is now the moment where we are all as a community happy, and we are always, when we are passing by, you know, people are quite proud and say, oh, this is our new and nice wooden kindergarten, you know, the regional company is building it, so they are also good company, they are doing their sustainable production. And so I think this is how we learning by doing, and also motivating and telling others the story. Just to have everything on a paper, I think it's, yes, they are saying, yes, everyone has everything on a paper. We are nice on the paper, but here, look, this will be the zero emission, carbon neutral and sustainable kindergarten that will have a positive effect on the health of our, not only the children, these children will be one day our main citizens, and they will organize the government and policy around. And I know if they grow with such an idea, if we promote it, if we put it everywhere, so they will be aware, yes, this is the way how we can do it in the future. And so it's not something that is already built in the heart of the people. Interesting.
Maybe, okay, you went out of your comfort zone with your municipality. You do something, you know, innovative, as I said, and I think also the citizens of the, I mean, the inhabitants there will be or are already proud. But I bet you had a lot of challenges. Can you share about that? I mean, because it's obviously a good practice, but maybe, you know, to start something new is hard. What do you think?
Yeah, it is, but it is always a challenge. You know, I'm the person that always say, you know, if there is a challenge, there should be a way. So I try to look for other practices. I talk to many of our colleagues around Slovenia and also in the EU. You know, if you were able to do it, where are the problems? Why I'm not able to do it? And when you ask for money, you say, oh, there is always lack of money. So we try to get it there, money and there, but still if we see now, especially for these climate consequences our municipalities has had it this year. So I will say we have nearly $1 million of costs for that only this year. So if I'm now able to put the $1 million in repairing the nature, the roads, helping people, so, and then if I have a knowledge and the possibility to put this $1 million in mitigate this or even to adapt to some changes, so I think there is the challenge that I took as a person, and also when I explain it well to our municipal councillors, to our people, I think there is really difficult to not to do it. But also in a personal way, you should be convinced, I'm convinced by myself, that going in the carbon neutral way is the only way that we as a human beings can survive. And I always give to my citizens, if they are a little bit, you know, this is maybe only somewhere, you know, someone is doing someone to us. I tell them, look, we have, only the 40 minutes of rain in this May destroyed 3 kilometers of roads. And this is not happening only this May. This will happen and already did in July, in the beginning of July. It will happen in November. It will happen next year in February, March, and all the time. So do you need anything else to believe it, to see it? And I think people are aware because they see these consequences and they influence really their everyday life. They were not able to go to work, they were not able to go to school. So now they understand this is not something that is just me and some people that are fan of green future are talking. So I think now is the time, the reality is showing us already the consequences. And let's put together our emotions, our idea that we would like to have the life for me another 30, 50, 100 years, and also for my children and grandchildren to be, you know, to have a childhood as I had when I was young. So, and if you promote this all the time, there are less and less people opposite. But I think, as a, you know, we all know Gauss curve, there are always 10% there and 10% on the other side. So I do for this 80%, and we together, I think we can move the hills.
Very inspiring. So maybe, Lucia, on the other side, right, you're looking forward, of course. As a company, you're also innovative, and you have some interesting solutions that are becoming a mainstream, let's say. But what are maybe your plans that you have in your company, you know, from the sustainability perspective? Or maybe you can also say something about your insights. Are you measuring ecological footprint or a carbon footprint or something like that, you know? Because sometimes companies, they don't want to do that. They're not, you know, you are going out of comfort zone. So how is that with your company?
So maybe I start from the last question. So measuring carbon footprint. Yes, of course, we are measuring our carbon footprint of the company, maybe for the start, for over a decade now. And of course, we are also trying, and we are reducing our footprint over the years of our company in Slovenia, but also, let's say, as a group, on a group level. But more importantly, we are measuring carbon footprint also for our products, and especially it is important to measure for our ECONYL products. And we have published several environmental product declarations that are basically third-party verified LCAs with the main information about the greenhouse gas emissions. This is like the main information that we are focused on when we are communicating the benefits of our products, and our partners appreciate very much this information, just because they are able then to simulate what are the benefits of their own end product, which they are placing on the market, if they are using our products. So I would say it's an essential information for us. And to be very honest, when you're working or when you're dealing with the recycling activities, it is only fair to do this kind of analysis because it needs to have some kind of environmental benefits. It is something that is a must, let's say, of this kind of activities. Then the plans for our future. In a very simple words, we want to do better every day. Of course, we can do better in the scope of our activities. Like we are a small piece in a big puzzle, let's say. And to be very honest, in the last decades, there has been a lot of negative things said about the plastic. Because, to be very honest, nylon 6 is a plastic product. But then again, we wanted to do better. We've created our ECONYL products, the range of products which are made out of recycled nylon. But we don't stop here. What we are trying to do now is we are trying to help our partners, customers, to design the products in a way that they would be easily recyclable. We are trying to help with our partners to establish take-back schemes and so on, this kind of activities. We are trying to expand our activities in this way and trying to, let's say, to have a role also downstream and upstream in the value chain. So hopefully we will move on in this direction in an efficient way and let's say, increase our contribution in the future.
It's really nice to hear, and of course, good luck with that.
Thank
Maybe
you.
I can see some parallels, you know. I think the policy framework is really important, you know. Also, as mentioned before, what are the signals that we are giving to society in general, you know? What are we what are we promoting, what we are not promoting. This is really important. And maybe just to conclude this panel right now, it's really important also the Green Deal and such framework is important. And while I was preparing for today's panel, I also checked, I will really read it quite often, but still, I double-checked again power of possibility of the Global Footprint Network website. One important measure, if half of the world would implement Green New Deal measures, we would move the date for 42 days. That's a lot. So this can be a conclusion for this panel. And I think the culmination of this event is happening right now with important keynote. So I am inviting the State Secretary, Mr. Uroš Weigl, to announce and unveil the 1 hour initiative. So please.
Thank you very much. So it's been a very intense 1.5 hours. The challenges in front of us demanded this, and we had a very condensed discussion looking at both the diagnostics or the factors that brought us to where we are, to a brief discussion on some of the frustrations of why we're here and why we're not heading someplace else, but also to some highlights or some positive solutions and necessary changes for the future. It is in this context that we wanted to end this today's event with an announcement. We didn't want this to be another one of those commemorative days, like we have of the day of the planet, the Earth Day. There are so many commemorative days where when we are expected to say, "Aha, we are not sustainable. We want to be," and then we move on to the next day. We wanted this to truly be not just a launch, but a call for action. In this regard, what we wanted to aim was. In particular, the interest of companies to step up and protect their own ability to operate in a sustainable future. One thing that we discussed today is that this persistence of overshooting year after year after year has brought about many climate and also other and resource constraints, and is turning the necessity of companies to expand, to build long-term resilience to environmental pressures as a necessity. And what we would like to do is to announce the 1 hour initiative, which will hopefully assist companies in moving toward in this direction. The 1 hour club will be a 1-year program for Slovene medium and small and medium-sized enterprises. It will kick off, it will be in 2 phases. It will kick off with an academy. This academy is intended to offer expert-led workshops and knowledge resources aimed at increasing the awareness of the private sector about environmental accounting and reporting, and also in order to enable them to grasp the significance of their actions. And it will be followed by a 1 hour club, so the companies participating in the academy will be invited to join the 1 hour club, where we will offer metric support to companies that will undertake an ecological footprint assessment, making sure that they will be able to both understand and also to prove the improvement that they have done within a year's time. So starting off at the academy with workshops and discussions, we hope that they will be able to conceive some measures that they will take in order to reduce their their environmental footprint. This environmental footprint will be measured in order to provide for a sturdy result. The 1 hour tag that we attach to this refers to the ambition that we hope to gather enough projects and enough companies to collectively move the Earth Overshoot Day by 1 hour in the right direction rather than the wrong one. And at the end of this year, we hope to be celebrating some champions of sustainability from this. But perhaps even more important than celebrating the champions is to have this exchange of practices and experiences that can then be also followed by others. So with this announcement, I would like to conclude today's event by expressing gratitude to all, to the organizers, to the partners that helped us to organize this event, to the distinguished speakers, to the participants, everyone that has made this event possible. I think your dedication to environmental stewardship and environmental action is commendable, and we look forward to continuing this journey with you. As we dive on to the next chapter of the Earth Overshoot Day in next year, I hope that we do this with a renewed enthusiasm and a more united commitment to create a sustainable, resilient, and balanced world, not only for ourselves, but also to the generations that come. We have the power to move the date, and we have the power to make a positive impact on this planet. Hvala lepa. Thank you very much.